Welcome to the 2 for 20 podcast. It's just two guys for 20 minutes on faith, family, and figuring it out. Here are your hosts, Lewis and Jim.
Welcome back, everyone, to the 2 for 20. I hope you're all doing well. Lewis, how's everything? You doing okay?
I'm doing well. Jim, how are you?
I'm doing great, thanks. I'm doing great. I'm interested to hear some of the things that you want to talk about tonight. So what's been on your mind?
So tonight I thought that and you know, we always say, right, 2 for 20, two guys just trying to figure it out. I have to figure this out, right? And the question I have for you today is, should Catholics celebrate Halloween? What do you think about that?
Yes and no.
Okay.
That's how I'm going to hedge my bets. Yes and no.
So that's where I am, right? Yes and no, right? So I started to do a little research and I couldn't find a whole lot. And you know, the Catechism doesn't really address this. It does in an indirect manner, right? But I thought that today we talk about it. Maybe we could talk a little bit about, you know, how the holiday came about, its origins, you know, and really what it represents, right? And finally, again, you know, if we as Catholics should celebrate it, right? So what do you know? I'll quiz you.
I guess I would say this before kind of even getting into like the origin stories of Halloween, because I think I'm probably mistaken on this. I'm kind of just going from memory, but my understanding is that there's several like possible origins, and you know, a little bit from this, it's a kind of amalgamation of several different things. But I guess I would kind of preface all this by saying like like what do we mean by celebrate Halloween? If we mean like we let our kids get dressed up in silly costumes and go trick-or-treating, okay, that's one thing. If we're talking about like, you know, having a even perverse affection or celebration of, you know, death and ghouls and zombies and spirits and ghosts and kind of like conjuring the dead, then I think that's a completely different thing. And so I guess I would kind of say like, let's maybe start by kind of defining terms and say like, well, I think there's a difference in those two things. That's why I think I hedge when I say yes and no. Because if we're talking about like, you know, my kid puts on a dinosaur costume and walks around with you know, a plastic pumpkin and says trick or treat and gets a couple of Kit Kats, which I then take home the dad tax, which you know the dad tax, right? Which
of course.
You know, you're going to take a handful of whatever you want, and then when the kids go to bed, you're going to eat all the good stuff. But anyway,
wait, don't get it twisted, because we have to check the candy. Okay?
Yeah, no, it is a safety first here, right?
You know.
No, absolutely. But if we're talking that, then like, yeah, go ahead, knock yourself out. If you're going to push it to this other extreme, yeah, I guess I would say like, yeah, we can't participate. And there are some things within the Catechism that we have to kind of be careful about, that they would reference regarding things like seances, Ouija boards, the occult, kind of this effort to contact the dead or kind of spirits, or however we might define those things. But there is some teaching there. But you tell me, what does that kind of resonate with you?
No, I you know, and that's kind of the way I think about it. So, you know, if I'm hearing you correctly, I think what you're saying is that it really depends on the intent, right? What we hope to gain from the holiday, right? You know, and I'm with you. I think that if you're going out, you know, you're having a good time. It's a safe time. You know, kids are dressing up in silly costumes. You know, and also, you know, they're going from house to house and they're getting candy. So they're seeing examples of, you know, kindness. You know, they're seeing people sharing. You know, so I see that, you know, being a positive about it, right? So, you know, it's intent, right? So I also know that there are a lot of people who maybe won't dress up in like the scary costumes, but they may dress up like a saint, for example, right? Or they may dress up as a positive figure in their lives, right? And as Catholics, I've known a lot of Catholics who have done that, who don't really celebrate Halloween in the traditional way, or at least the more modern way, um, but do allow their children to dress up like saints, for example, right? And I think that if we think about it, in the research I've done, um, you know, I learned that the you know Halloween, or comes from All Hallows Eve, right? Um, and I came across an interesting article in what's that website? Word on Fire?
Yeah,
Is
Bishop
that it?
Barron's ministry. Yeah, Word on Fire.
Yes. Yes. So there was an interesting article there. They're interviewing a priest. I think it's titled, should um, something like that, right? Should Catholics celebrate Halloween or something? Um, and it talks about All Hallows Eve being that festive precursor to All Saints Day, right? And so, we can consider Halloween to be like, the Christmas Eve to All Saints Day, right? The Christmas Eve to Christmas, I mean, granted, um,
Yeah, I mean, well, the
and,
root of it is that the root of it is, at least in some part of its history is rooted in this idea of the day before All Saints Day, right? The eve of All Hallows, hallowed being holy, All Holies Eve, right? Halloween. So there is a certain part of its history that it has Christian roots.
mhm.
So yeah, it's not like it's completely foreign to a Christian experience to kind of recognize this day. But yeah, I mean, it certainly kind of has taken on shifts and changes. So, I mean, obviously
Yeah,
it's
and that
taken on a different form now.
right, and that's what I think where the article was going with it, that it does have roots in Catholicism, right? And it's not until like more modern times that um, it gets to become this pagan kind of holiday, right? Um, you know, uh, Pagans take it and turn it into something else, But in the past, and as we've known, right, the festive days for in our church, right, in our liturgical calendar, are days in which we celebrate, right, and we usually celebrate the day prior. So I forgot where I was going with that, but
Yeah, there is a history. There's a part of the liturgy that has in joyful anticipation the vigil. That's why we can celebrate the vigil mass on Saturday evening in anticipation for the Sunday celebration, right? That's why we still call it the Lord's Day, even though it's Saturday night, evening vigil mass. It's kind of this great anticipation for the next day. So there's a place for that. I'm interested. There's a quote that comes to mind here, and I want to say it's from Bishop Fulton Sheen, but I could be mistaken. I might be misremembering, but I think it was him who said something to the effect of um, devotions and practices that Christians put down or kind of cast aside, the culture picks up, right? So
Mhm.
when Christians do away with the idea of contemplation and meditation, the culture picks up the idea of, new age yoga, meditation, and, the calming apps and stuff like that. Or
Mhm.
when the church puts aside, or Christians put aside the devotions to like the rosary, you see the culture picks up the rosary but wears it around its neck like a necklace instead of as a devotional to pray with, and it's a jewelry, fashion thing. And I think maybe there's something there to talk about All Hallows Eve, kind of in anticipation for All Saints Day, that as perhaps Christians have forgotten the beauty of celebrating feast days and celebrating holy days, um, we've kind of put down that, and it's been picked up and then perverted by the culture into this day of death and this day of demons and this day of ghosts. And you know, like I said, I think if we celebrate Halloween in this kind of like, you know, oh, it's a silly day to have some fun and wear costumes, and okay, if we use it as a day to kind of in pious devotion to recall the lives of the saints, wonderful. But if we use it as a day to kind of, you know, I don't know, reverence death and blood and horror and ghouls and, you know, whatever savagery, I think that there's a problem there, you know. And I
Right.
think that takes something that perhaps comes from a wholly original place and turns it into a really perverted evil place, potentially, not entirely, but potentially, you know. So I think there's a cautiousness there with that we should approach it with.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting. I've never thought of it that way. Taking something that we've dropped and then taken up by, you know, society and turn into something more mundane. Um, that's an interesting notion. And I would agree that that happens a lot. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
so
you can look at all of the different feast days and see how Christmas has gone from, you know, a great celebration of the birth of the Savior to a Santa Claus Day to now where we see it as just a kind of bland happy
Mhm,
holidays. And I'm not into the happy holidays crusade, like whatever, that doesn't offend me, but you can see where the culture is shifting to this kind of
mhm,
taking it. And that's just one example. You can take the Easter and turn it into the bunny whatever, and so you can see it throughout. But I think it comes from, you know, Christians and Catholics particularly, who have this rich heritage and this great liturgical celebration, this great liturgical life, this great devotional resources, that we've kind of forgotten our, you know, we've forgotten our own dignity. And when we
mhm.
forget it, the culture takes it and kind of distorts it into some kind of, I don't know, ugly version of what it used to be, you know?
So, do you think that's where we get the what's this called? The Krampus monster? Have you ever
What is,
heard of that?
what is that?
Krampus? I think. Sorry, so maybe this will be edited out, but anyway, so Krampus is like this evil demon or something that comes out at Christmas time and kidnaps, children who have been bad.
Oh,
Um,
wow. No, I've
yeah,
never
and I
heard of
think
that.
it's what country do they do? Is it Germany? No. Um, I'm gonna
Uh-huh.
have to look it up. But anyway, and I wonder, when you said that about distorting traditions and holidays, and especially those from the church, um, I immediately thought of Krampus.
They're like
It's
a really ugly version of Elf on the Shelf, because that guy can go kick rocks, you know?
I think this guy's a lot uglier. Says Central Europe for folklore. So
Oh, interesting.
um,
No, I've never
half
heard of
goat,
it.
half demon. Anyway,
That's
maybe
frightening. No, I don't know anything about
excuse me. Maybe look it up. But anyway, it sounds like something that has been distorted, right? Like the Christmas tradition to be distorted, and maybe maybe it doesn't apply here. But I thought about it when you just said that.
it. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, back to Halloween. I would say, like, you know, there's and even like just, I don't know, a couple of days, we're recording this, it's early October.
Yeah.
A couple of days ago, my wife and I were going somewhere, we were driving, and we're kind of noticing that around the neighborhood and around wherever, it's a lot of people who have like pretty intense Halloween decorations up. And I was thinking, like, this is starting to like rival Christmas for like people's lawn
Yes.
decorations. Like, you know, and it's not like a, you know, a smiling pumpkin saying Happy Halloween. It's like, oh, there's bones and there's a guy over there with a severed head with, like, you know, blood dripping. And it's just kind of like, what are we doing here? Like,
Hmm.
like, to your point, like, what are we even celebrating? Like, I don't understand the, you know, is it just fun and games? Is it people just like to have some kind of make believe? I like being scared. There's an adrenaline rush, or is there, you know, is there like a danger, a spiritual danger that exists within this. And I don't want to say definitively yes or no, but I think it's worthy of people to, maybe take a pause and say, like, what are we doing? Where
Hmm.
are we headed with this?
Yeah, yeah. We have to be careful as to what we pay homage to, right? And to put these types of decorations up, it in a way you're paying homage to the macabre, the evil. I think so you have to be very careful. It's not like you said. It's not a pumpkin smiling at you, or jack o' lantern or whatever, right? It's some of these decorations go really far. I know. Um, you know I know people who, these, for example, these haunted houses that you go and you pay for, and they're scaring you, and it's so dangerous because you may think it's a game, but you may not know what you're inviting into your life by engaging in that, So, you have to be very careful with that. So, again, should we celebrate Halloween? I really think it boils down to what you intend to gain from the holiday, right? So, if you're going to go from house to house, visit neighbors, and maybe get a little candy and, wait, be out for a little bit, you're back home, everything is safe, no problem, right? No big deal. Even better, if you're going to dress up or encourage your children to dress up and say, hey, dress up, as a saint, or someone who is a positive role model, right? Then it's a learning opportunity. It's a good way to use the holiday.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, it's an interesting place because there's room for kind of going with, like, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with Catholics, I think, kind of um enjoying uh a scary story, or kind of having a moment where you kind of have a little thrill there. But there is a really dangerous line there. And to give an example, like that I referenced, like in the Catechism, the Church does make particular condemnations to certain activities that sometimes get associated with Halloween and kind of get rolled into it. I know with my
mhm,
students, I always kind of give them a class right before Halloween about the dangers of things like Ouija boards, tarot cards, visiting psychics. And the way the church would understand is that, by doing things like that, we're kind of not taking seriously the real spiritual dangers that exist, right? So there exists, of course, the physical world, the world in which we see, but there also exists the world of the angels, the spiritual realm, the idea that there are non-visible realities, right? Angels that truly exist, heavenly angels faithful to the Lord, but there's also fallen angels, demons, who seek
mm,
the destruction of all things pursuing God. And so they cannot harm us unless we allow for them to harm us, unless we make ourselves vulnerable. And one of the ways that we can make ourselves vulnerable is by playing with Ouija boards and kind of inviting those evil spirits. So, you grab a couple of kids, they think they're playing a game, they think it's all giggles and whatever, but the reality is that you're inviting danger, in a very real, serious evil into their lives, and that's something that should never be taken lightly. And so, yeah. So how do you celebrate Halloween? I think there's a cautiousness. I think there's a need for parents, and particularly Catholic parents, who want to kind of be more thoughtful and intentional. It's not an intrinsic evil. Yeah, go celebrate, have your kids dress up, be silly, be whatever,
mhm.
get a whole bunch of candy, give me my cut, whatever. Yeah, so I mean, I think maybe to kind of wrap it up and tie it in real quick with, how do you handle this as a parent? You
Mhm.
know, I think kind of being straight with your kids, I think is a good approach. Um, Telling them, when they're picking their Halloween costumes, my kids are bugging me, like, can I get this? Can I whatever. I think there's a certain clarity of, like, okay, like, you want to be this character, you want to dress up like Captain America, you want to be a princess, you want whatever, but you're not going to dress up like a psychotic bloody monster with a severed head. You know what I mean? Like, yeah,
Right.
we're not going to go that route. But
Mhm.
that's, I think, a place for parents to have really meaningful, thoughtful kind of conversations and intentional thoughts about that, you know?
Yep, I agree. I agree. I think this is one of those topics that we're pretty much on the same page. Um, so that was good. I'm glad we talked about it, and I hope that people who are listening may gain some benefit from it. So I have one final question for you.
Yeah, yeah.
What are you going to be following?
You know what I'm going to be for Halloween? I'm going to be Waldo from Where's Waldo, because I'll tell you a quick story. I'll end with this. I don't know, 7, 8, 10 years ago, I don't remember. My wife and I went to buy Halloween costumes for something, whatever. And so we decided to be Waldo, right? So we both got Waldo costumes. And I was like, these things are so expensive. It was like $50 for a wall. I mean, it's a red and white t-shirt, whatever. Still have it almost every year. If I do any kind of Halloween thing, I'm Waldo. My kids are like, can you stop dressing up as Waldo? Well, I'm like, no, I'm going to get my money's worth out of this costume. So I'm riding that thing for at least the next decade or two. So, yeah. How about you? What are you being?
It wasn't a holiday that I used to celebrate a lot as a kid, but I try to get out there with my kids. But I never really dress up. I just go with them.
Yeah.
Although they try to coerce me into like being like a Star Wars theme. I have a Shih Tzu
Yeah.
at home, so we dressed him up as an Ewok, and the kids wanted to be some of the other characters. But yeah, I don't think my wife and I are not really into not that we wouldn't be, but maybe one day.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting. Well, this has
Mm.
been good. Yeah. Thanks for bringing this up. And for everyone at home, happy Halloween, or rather, happy All Hallows Eve.
And happy All Saints Day, which is the very next day after that, right?
Amen.
Amen.
All right, everyone. We'll see you next time. God bless.
Take care, everyone. God bless. Bye.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this, make sure to share with a friend. See you next time. Bye. God bless.